Uprooted Theatrical Studios presents.
It's 10 Tips Tuesday.
Hi, welcome to 10 Tips Tuesday. Thank you to my friends at Uprooted Theatrical Studios for inviting me on to talk about 10 of my favorite financial tips for young adults and also independent contractors like many of you are. We'll move through these pretty quickly because tip number one is your time is your money. I think one of the most underestimated assets that you have in your life is your time. And so my first tip is to treat your time like it's cash in your bank account. Monitor every minute of your day and make sure that you're being intentional with how you're using it, either for fun and enjoyment in your life or increasing your revenue in your workplace. Tip number two, track your spending habits meticulously. I think this one is the most unfun tip that I will have for you today, but whatever software you use, some folks still enjoy using Microsoft Excel to track everyday expenditures. There are also online tools, many of them free, and of course software like Quicken that you can install to carry with you year after year. This one's really important because you can't measure what you don't know. And if you need to make quick pivots, for instance, COVID-19 and how it changed everyone's spending habits, you won't know where you can cut or add to your income if you're not tracking it. Tip number three, read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. This one was one of the most powerful reads I've had in the last 2 years because it showed us really, as the title of the book suggests, the power of habit, how much the things we do add up and make for actions in our lives that have a cumulative effect. So you may have heard of the latte effect. If you walk by Starbucks every day and you go in and you buy a $5 drink, well, do the math. 365 days in a year, $5 a day, that's going to add up. So read through that book, because my next tip, number four, is to pay attention to your own spending habits, things that you might want to correct. Things that if you are the person that walks by Starbucks and then you walk inside and $5, $10, $15 later, you didn't really intend to spend that money, but you did. Or perhaps when you're home at night, you've had a bad day, you're on your laptop and suddenly Amazon.com is the next thing on your screen and you're making a bunch of purchases that you didn't intend. Pay attention to what triggered that. Was it the bad day? Was it maybe that you had to go online to order your dinner for that evening, and while you were online you saw an ad for something and that led you to Amazon? So really thinking through your behaviors and what leads you to spend money can be one of the most powerful things you can do to make better decisions for your financial future. Tip number five, develop a spending plan. Throw out the B word. No more budgets. It's just one of the most terror-invoking, horrible words on the planet. It feels so restrictive. Budgets aren't quite necessary anymore. Have a plan for how you're going to spend your money, which certainly makes you feel more empowered. Know the difference between what's mandatory and discretionary. Discretionary means you can spend it or not spend it. Mandatory would be your rent, your car note, anything that you must pay each month to be you. And then your discretionary, what you don't necessarily have to spend, that's where the wiggle room is. If you're getting tight in your savings account and you need to build back up your cash savings, these discretionary expenses, eating out is one of the biggest ones, are what you can cut back when you need to replenish that cash savings account. Tip number six, pay future you. So the now you is day to day, being reactionary. Treat future you, you of 20 years from now, like it's a bill in your spending plan. 10% of your gross income in a future you retirement account. They still use the term retirement. I don't know if any of us will ever retire at this point. It's kind of an old concept. But future you that may want to buy a house, future you that may want to change careers, future you that may want to open up your own theatrical company, paying that future you as part of your spending plan will pay huge, huge dividends. Tip number 7 is a little bit of a sad one to think about, but very important. You need to make sure that in your financial array of documents, bills, and things, you've met with an attorney or used an online software if you absolutely have to, if you can't afford an attorney. Documents in place that grant power to someone trusted in your life to make business decisions and healthcare decisions in the event that something happens to you and you're in a hospital somewhere and you can't act for yourself. That's a business power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney. If you can look on LegalZoom, possibly find some legal resources, or ask around for some referrals. Very important documents to have that do impact your financial future. Tip number 8, pay to have your taxes prepared at least once every few years, especially if you're an independent contractor. Number 1, tax laws change, but also there may be some deductions. There may be a certain type of retirement account that you can use that will allow you to pay future you, going back to pay future you, instead of paying the IRS for tax dollars. And a CPA can certainly help you navigate that. Tip number 9, understand the power of saving early. So when you get a moment, this one is the easiest one I'm going to tell you about in the beginning. Google the power of compound returns. And you'll see how much money that's saved early in your 20s, even early in your 30s, and it's invested, how much it will compound over time. You'll see these beautiful mountain charts. Many folks I talk to are in their 50s and 60s wish they could turn back the clock and invest a lot more in their earlier years. And finally, the top 10 tip I have for you is to treat your emergency cash savings like it is more important than paying your cell phone bill. And I mean it. That cell phone bill is your lifeline to your world and your life. So is your emergency cash savings. We saw what can happen in an instant this year, and suddenly no revenue with a really long time horizon for when things might change. At least 6 months of living expenses is the goal. And I know that sounds like a lot. But as you saw this year, you just might need it. And as they say, cash is king or queen. Thanks again for having me on for 10 Tips Tuesday. My email address hopefully is listed below. If not, it's tbailey@wealthstrategists.com. Email me with any questions anytime. Also visit our website at wealthstrategist.com.